Hello there, and welcome to Talking Nerdy, the show where we take various story arcs and events from current comics and we cover them. I'm your host, Obi-Wan Jabroni. Now, our story today is War of the Bounty Hunters finale. Consisting of 5 issues, the final push for ownership of the Carbonite frozen Han Solo has begun as the Hutts, Fets, Valance, and the Rebellion all tried to snatch Solo from the Empire. So, with that, let's start talking nerdy. First up, we have Dr. Aphra number 15, written by Alyssa Wong, with art by Minkyu Jung, and colors by Rochelle Rosenberg. Part 1, Party Favors. Rogue archaeologist Dr. Aphra and smuggler Sonostaros are working for Domina Teague. The job? Infiltrate the most dangerous place in the galaxy. An auction hosted by a resurgent crime syndicate, Crimson Dawn. After getting captured, imprisoned, and staging a breakout, Aphra and her associates are staring down one of the most deadly assassins in the galaxy, Deathstick. Now, we open on the Vermilion, and the assassin Deathstick has Aphra, Sansa, Lucky, and Arioli pinned down in the Crimson Dawn's museum. Deathstick jumps over her cover and throws out poison knives and pins Aphra to the wall. And Sansa takes the chance and shoots at Deathstick, causing her to retreat to the shadows as Crimson Dawn guards charge into the room. They all dive into cover, and Aphra grabs an artifact and says that it's a thought dowser. As she grabs it, a blinding red light surrounds her, and she points it towards Deathstick and the guards. They all start to shake and then repeatedly stab each other till they are all dead. Sana approaches and tells Aphra to put it down, and she turns to say she can hear it, and Aphra turns to say she can hear it talking and demanding things of her. She screams out, "Why won't you shut up?" and raises her arm to smash the artifact to the ground, causing it to explode, charring her arm and making her pass out. Sana hurries and grabs Aphra and the data necklace, and all 4 of them rush out into the hall, leaving the Crimson Dawn guards and Deathstick dead on the ground. They make it into the hangar with no problems, and they make it to the hangar with no problems right as Aphra wakes up. Sorry. And Sana puts her down, and they both pull their blasters out and aim at Lucky and Arioli, who do the same. Lucky says it's been a long, rough day, and they know they have their differences, but they should just go their separate ways. Aphra agrees and throws a grenade at Lucky's ship as her and Aphra turn and run into their own ship and hurry away. Now, later on Aphra's ship, the the Vault Cobra, Sansa asks what the artifact she used was, and Aphra says the Ascendant was an ancient cult obsessed with powerful and dark technologies. According to legends, though, thought dowsers were made of a special material that amplifies your thoughts. The Sith used them to teach apprentices how to compel and manipulate people by channeling one's will. In theory, anyone could use them like a lightsaber, but if the user was force sensitive, the effects would be crushing. It exploited a loophole in the artifact's design to activate it, connected the right circuits, gave it some juice. It was fascinating, incredible. I never want to do it again, though. Sansa says good, and Aphra starts to splice the necklace. It don't take long, and she opens it to discover that Crimson Dawn has infiltrated not only the Empire or Black Sun, but every single organization, criminal and otherwise, across the entire galaxy. And that is where we end our first issue. Leading us to War of the Bounty Hunters number 5, written by Charles Soule, with art by Luke Ross and colors by Rochelle Rosenberg. Part 2, Attack at Dawn. Han Solo is currently frozen in carbonite and in the grip of the Empire, but the rebels aboard the Millennium Falcon plan to take him back. They are not the only ones looking to recapture Solo, though. Boba Fett and Valance are both on a collision course with the Falcon and the Imperial shuttle holding Han Solo, but neither group were expecting the Hutts to come with an entire armada. Now, we open in the space above Jakara, and the Hutt clan fleet has swarmed and fired their maga clamps onto the Imperial shuttle carrying Solo, and the nearby Star Destroyer scrambles its TIE fighters out to help free the shuttle. They call Vader to tell him about the Hutt, and he tells them not to bother him again, that Solo better be on the ship when he returns. The call ends, and an officer tells Admiral Pyatt that Fett has called with the correct clearance codes and said he works for Vader. The Admiral tells them to let him aboard and curses Vader and his secrets. Meanwhile, on the Millennium Falcon, Lando and Chewie get the ship running again, but as soon as they start to move, the Star Destroyer gets them with its tractor beam and pulls them into its hangar. They rest easily and hesitantly leave the ship, and are met by a single Imperial officer who just turns away and says, "Await the dawn," as she walks away. Elsewhere on the Star Destroyer, Valance and Boba Fett have landed and are walking through the hangar, and Valance says he knows the way and leads them into a hall. When a K2 droid rounds the corner and attacks Boba Fett, Valance jumps to the side and blasts its head off. Boba says that the time has come, and he throws a bomb at Valance, destroying most of his chest cybernetics, and he leaves saying, "No hard feelings, just business." Now, elsewhere on the ship, Chewie, Lando, and Leia have made their way to the medical bay where Honda's being kept. They burst into the door and easily take out the startled Imperials and approach Han and start to unlatch the slab from the walls. When behind them, Boba enters and says, "Get away from my property," and he shoots the nearby wall and causes it to blow away and sucks Han out into space. Boba jumps out of the hole and uses his jetpacks to fly towards the falling Han. He hits his grapple hooks right as Han hits the water on the planet's surface and is able to pull it out and fly away. Now, we switch to on the Vermilion. Kira is standing on her stage, giving her gang a speech, saying, "This is a good beginning. It didn't go exactly as I hoped. I did want to return Han to his people, but my primary goal was achieved. We lost valuable allies, but relations between the Empire and the Hutts are as strained as they have ever been. Instability and chaos are sure to follow as the galaxy's balance of power realigns, a true opportunity for us. And though we gained new enemies, we found others who might serve the dawn. Time will tell. This was a good beginning. The dawn has come. Now, the real work begins. Await the rain." Now, we switch to an epilogue for the next day at Jabba's palace. Boba enters the throne room with Han and demands that Jabba drops the bounty on him, and he pays him immediately for delivering Han eventually. And that ends this issue. Taking us to Darth Vader number 17, written by Greg Pak, with art by Rafael Incinco, and colors by Alex Sinclair. Part 3, Just Rewards. Darth Vader pursues his son, Luke Skywalker, across the stars to strike fear into his heart. Meanwhile, on planet Jakara, Vader's servant, Ochi of Bestoon, is battling Sly Moore after learning of her betrayal of Vader. Now, we open up on the surface of Jakara, right outside the Vermilion. Ochi and Administrator Moore are still fighting when they learn about the Hutt attack on the Star Destroyer. And Moore tries to convince Ochi to get Vader to go after Solo instead of Skywalker. And Ochi says, "Just 1 minute. He only wanted Solo as bait for the Skywalker boy, so why distract him when he's about to kill the kid on his own? You're just trying to protect Skywalker again, aren't you, Umbaran? Well, we'll let the Executor ties take care of Solo. We're just talking about Hutts after all. What do we really think they can do against the power of the Empire? And we switch to the space right above Jakara. And Vader is still chasing after Luke when he gets a call from Emperor Palpatine and is told to go take care of the Hutts personally. Vader pulls off of Luke and calls out to him, saying, "You know you cannot escape me, my son, but today you will, because my master has shown his hand. He wants you alive, so it will have to be enough to know your fear, but even better, to measure his." And he flies off and boards the Hutt flagship and starts to kill everyone on the ship as he makes his way to the bridge. He bursts onto the bridge and finds Boku, and we learn that Boku has been secretly working for Crimson Dawn the entire time. And Vader plunges his saber into Boku's head right as he pushes a button. The ship explodes and falls to the surface. Vader pulls a metal ball around himself as he falls and lands unhurt inside of it before he cuts his way out. We switch to later on Vader's Star Destroyer, the Executor. Ochi is standing with and handcuffed Administrator Moore when Vader enters and starts to force choke her. A cackling laugh interrupts them, and Vader turns to see Palpatine, and he kneels and says, "My master." "So you are truly with us again, Lord Vader." It is reassuring to hear that word, when so many misguided fools now seem to think that a millions are stronger than one. Have you not found that thought tempting? Crimson Dawn has barely shown its strength. To get this far, it must have agents at every level throughout the Empire. Find these infiltrators, Lord Vader, and show them who is stronger. And Vader and Ochi turn and leave the room, leaving behind Administrator Morse struggling to breathe on the ground. And Vader tells Ochi to go to the Assassin's League and tell them they now serve me. And we switch to later on the planet Sakai. Ochi approaches a group of assassins, and they say they have a gift for him, and they step in to find Kira locked in a cell. Ochi asks if anyone else knows about this outside of this room, and they say no, only they know, and they didn't tell anybody. They wanted it to be a surprise for the Emperor. He quickly turns and shoots everyone in the room and turns off Kira's cell. Kira walks out and says, "A million is stronger than one," and Ochi repeats the phrase as Kira gives him a hug. And that ends this issue. Leading us into Bounty Hunters number 17, written by Ethan Sachs, with art by Paolo Vanelli, and colors by Arif Peranto. Part 4, The Last Stand. The rise of Crimson Dawn weighs heavily on the bounty hunters as the dust settles from the hunt for Han Solo. Betrayed by Boba Fett, Billard Valance was left for dead aboard Darth Vader's Executor with no hope for escape. Now, we open on the Executor, and Valance is laying on the ground after being blown up by Boba. And he runs a diagnostic and stumbles to his feet as a squad of stormtroopers rush into the room. Valance charges and starts blasting the troopers with his hand blasters. Even heavily damaged, he easily takes them out, and when he gets a call from Tonga on his comms. She tells him to hurry to the hangar and they can pick him up and get out of here. And as Valance makes his way to the hangar, he is stopped by a shaking Imperial cadet, and he starts to convince him to drop his gun. The cadet starts to do so when an airlock nearby opens and yanks him out into space. Valance grabs a ledge and throws a baton at the airlock button, shutting it and boarding an elevator. He enters the hangar unseen and rushes to a jump trooper and steals his jetpack just as Tonga enters the hangar in her ship. She swings to exit the hangar as Zuckuss opens the top hatch and barely catches Valance's hand and tries to pull him in. But something starts to pull at Valance, ripping his arm off. And we see Vader standing behind them in the hangar, using the Force to pull him back in. And as he's getting pulled in, Valance passes out. But he wakes up days later with all of his cybernetics gone from his body and Vader standing over him saying, I had you fixed, Valance, because you now serve me. And that ends this issue. Taking us to our final issue, Star Wars number 18, written by Charles Soule, with art by Raymond Rosanos, and colors by Rochelle Rosenberg. Part 5, Collision Course. Bounty hunter Boba Fett completed his mission by bringing Han Solo to Jabba the Hutt. After their failed attempt to save the carbonite frozen Solo, Leia Organa, Chewbacca, and Lando Calrissian plan their next steps aboard the Millennium Falcon. Now, we open up in deep space on the Falcon, and Leia and Chewie are sitting and talking about Han. And Leia says, You know what I think, Chewbacca? Not to sound too much like Lando, but hope is for suckers. I had Han in my hands, Chewie. I touched him after everything. I finally had him, and if I had had another 60 seconds, I could have gotten him out of that carbonite. Just one more minute, that's all. For a while, I felt like a droid, I guess. I walk, I talk, I do what the Resistance needs, but inside, it's just programming. Then we all got that message from Holdo. We put the mission together and saw Han. He was right there. I touched him. I felt like a person again. I almost gave up hope. Han, I'm so sorry. And then he fell, and now he's dead. And I just don't know what to do. And at that point, Aunt Lando interrupts and says that Crimson Dawn's ship, the Vermilion, has just dropped out of hyperspace right at them, and Kira wants to talk. And that she has shut down the Falcon's hyperdrive, so they have no escape as well. Leia says they don't have a choice, and they let her on alone. She boards, and Lando pats her down and finds that she has no weapons. Just a data chip and a bottle of booze. She tells them that the chip will unlock the hyperdrive, and she wants to talk to Leia alone first. Leia agrees, and the others leave the room, and Leia points her blaster at Kira and tells her that she better start talking. Oh. Sorry. Points her blaster at her and tells her to talk. Of course, let me start by saying how sorry I am to what happened with Han. This isn't how I wanted things to go. Believe it or not, I did everything I could. I took Han, yes, but I never intended for whoever won the auction to actually take him. I wanted him to end up back with the people he loves. I wanted him back with you, Leia. I arranged for word of the auction on Jakara to reach Amilyn Hodo. I knew she would tell you. I tried to distract Vader long enough for you to spirit Han away. And then that didn't work. I burned valuable agents of Crimson Dawn, assuring that the Empire would be occupied while you rescued Han. Boku the Hutt was mine. He attacked the Imperials at my orders. Or do you think that it was a coincidence that an Imperial officer allowed you to board the Executor? She was mine too. I have people everywhere. I used them to try to help you. It didn't work out. Han didn't get to come home. But I promise, I did everything I could. And at that point, Leia is pissed and yells, You could have gave him to me. Kira turns and smiles, saying what I would have got out of it, though. That's what I do in manipulating people. Leia asks if she is manipulating her now. And Kira says no. I truly wish things have gone differently. I have no love for the Empire, and Han Solo as a rebel hero, it's the ending he deserves. Even if he never admit it in 1,000 years. Now, let me tell you a story, Leia. Oh, sorry. Forget that part. Leia asks why she's telling her all this, and Kira says, Let me tell you a story. When we were young, Han and I both worked in the gang led by an enforcer named Lady Proxima. She used a lot of the children in kids' fights. One day, a group of older kids ganged up on a smaller boy. It wasn't uncommon. Probably didn't even have a reason. Maybe just a way to feel a little power passing hurt along to someone else. Han stepped in, tried to fight off the others, kids by himself. Very brave, but very stupid. They beat the hell out of him. They probably would have killed Han if Lady Proxima's goons hadn't stepped in. He'd never done anything like that before. No one ever did. There was no point in helping anyone else like that. In the White Worms, you were either strong, you had strong friends, or you were weak and you died. The smaller kid had nothing to offer Han. I couldn't understand it, so I asked him, "Why did you do that, Han? You could have gotten yourself killed for nothing." He looked at me and said, "This is the way it is. No one's ever going to help anyone unless it gets them something else. Hell, I noticed you didn't exactly lend a hand. It's that way down here with us." And I figured it's probably the same all the way up there, at the top of the fanciest tower on the fanciest planet in the galaxy. But today, for a few more minutes, that kid, that's how it was. Maybe it doesn't always have to be this way, you know? I guess that's what I was thinking. Maybe it could different. You gotta start somewhere. And Leia stands stunned. Whoop. I skipped a part again. I am so sorry, guys. Leia's furious and she points her gun at her and asks why she's telling her all this still. And Kira raises a hand. "Leia, there's one more thing I wanted you to know. Han Solo isn't dead. No, you saw him fall. Boba Fett caught him before he hit the ocean. He took him back to his ship, and then he flew away. Fett took Han straight to Tatooine and sold him to Jabba the Hutt, just like he intended to do from the beginning. Jabba's got him on his wall like a trophy at Dakadana." "I'm not lying. I put a tracer on Han, but you'll hear soon enough. I'm sure the Alliance has contacts in Jabba's palace. And if you don't, I guarantee Lando's working angles there. Just a word of advice, Leia. Keep a eye on him." Leia stands stunned and lowers her blaster, and Kira turns to leave and says, "I can't help you get him from Jabba, but I can offer help when the right time comes. I'll be seeing you, Leia." And that ends the entirety of War of the Bounty Hunters. I hope you enjoyed this week's video. Be sure to join us next week as we cover Marauders number 22 through 25. Thanks for watching. As always, remember to like, subscribe, and share out that video to help spread our brand to the world. Also, leave a comment down below. Feedback is always welcome. Now, you can also find us on the Jabroni Nerd Network Facebook page. So, until next week, guys, keep talking nerdy.